So let's quickly talk about attack surfaces. Every system has an attack surface. You can define it as like the sum total of all the ways an attacker can potentially breach your system. Your job as a technical team is to map it, identify the weak points, and shrink that surface as best as you can. Let's break down how to find and reduce your attack surface so you can keep your systems as airtight as possible. I had spoken about entry points. Entry points can include open ports, APIs, user inputs, services, and even third-party integrations. Imagine an e-commerce website. The attack surface includes the web app login page, the API endpoints for payment processing, admin dashboards, or even third-party plugins that interact with the platform. So what should you do? The first step is to actually map out the entire attack surface to better secure your system. This means documenting every component of your system and understanding how each piece interacts with the others. Start by categorizing your system into 3 key areas. 1, digital assets. Think of your databases, your APIs, your file systems, and everything that holds sensitive information. Next would be entry points. These are the points through which data enters or leaves your system through login forms, open network ports, or exposed API endpoints. And for processes, think of internal workflows, microservices, and background processes that actually handle data. For example, in a microservices architecture, map how data flows between your services. Each microservice is a potential entry point and should be treated as part of the attack surface. You will use tools like OWASP AMAS or Nmap to automatically scan for open ports and expose services in your infrastructure. This helps you discover external points you might not even be aware of. Once you've mapped your system, the next step is to reduce the attack surface. The fewer ways an attacker can get in, the safer your system will be. It's like closing all the windows before you go to bed and locking all your doors. These are some practical ways to minimize your attack surface. Number 1 is to remove unnecessary features. Now this is a hard one because I'm a product person as well, but you don't need an entire stack of features. If a feature is not being used, get rid of it. This could be unused APIs, endpoints, or services that are still running but are not in use. Say you have an API endpoint that was used for a past integration but is no longer needed. The partnership has, ended. Disable or remove it entirely to shrink your attack surface because it's an entry point. Next, you will close unused ports. Open ports are like Candyland for attackers. So run periodic port scans and make sure any unnecessary ports are closed. Use tools like Nmap or Shodan to scan for open ports and close those that are only critical to your application's functionality. Next, limit public exposure. Not every service or endpoint needs to be publicly accessible. Let's be frank. So limit public-facing entry points as best as you can, and only expose what you absolutely have to. Use firewalls, VPNs, or private APIs to reduce exposure. In cloud environments like AWS, for example, make sure your S3 buckets aren't publicly accessible until they absolutely need to be. Also, make sure that sensitive APIs are only accessible from internal networks or via VPN. Next, isolate services and use microsegmentation. I'm a big fan of this. In complex environments especially, microsegmentation can be a game changer. Break your system into smaller chunks with limited communication between them. This will limit the damage if any one of those parts ends up being compromised. Use things like Kubernetes network policies to isolate traffic between pods, making sure that only the necessary services can communicate with each other. It shouldn't be a noisy house. Number 3 would be to do something called attack surface monitoring. Reducing your attack surface isn't something you do just once. You have to stay on top of it. As your system evolves, so does your attack surface. That's why continuous monitoring is such a strong theme in security. So what are the best practices here? Log everything. Set up comprehensive logging for all system interactions, API calls, user authentication, database queries, so you can spot potential threats early. Also, I think you should monitor externally. Use tools like Shodan or Rapid7, Insight VM to monitor your public attack surface so you have sort of like an outside in perspective and get alerts when new vulnerabilities are exposed. Regularly perform penetration tests and red teaming exercises to learn the attack vectors you may have missed. Great tools for this would be Burp Suite and OWASP Zap. They can simulate attacks on your system and give you a real-world look on your attack surface. 4. Attack surface reduction can be automated. Manual reviews are important, but automation is really where you do the heavy lifting. Integrate attack surface monitoring into your CI/CD pipeline. Every time you deploy, your pipeline should automatically check for new vulnerabilities, open ports, or insecure configurations. For example, use AWS Config, Terraform, or Ansible to enforce policies that automatically close open ports and disable unused services after each deployment. Attack surface analysis is a core task for your safety because every piece of your system that's exposed is a potential entry point for attackers. By doing everything we have covered here, you can shrink your attack surface and keep your system as safe as you possibly can.